You're in a dark room with a group of friends, and the lights flicker. Tensions are running high. Adrenaline is pumping through your body when you feel a cold breath on the back of your neck. You push the feeling out of mind because the only thing you want right now is to beat the clock. You want to win. You need to win. Seconds tick by, and time is running out, and just as you and your friends are about to make your escape, you feel a burning sensation down your shoulder blade. You exit the room just to find out that the escape room you have been in is cursed by the devil himself. Coffee and Calacas is a weekly podcast where we share stories of the supernatural, discuss mysticism, and explore the beyond. If this is something that interests you, then stick around and enjoy this week's episode. I do enjoy horror movies and haunted places, but I'm not a big fan of haunted houses. It's mostly because I'm claustrophobic. But I do hear that the RGV, Rio Grande Valley, for those who are not local, has some great haunted house attractions. A few years ago, during one of my grad school classes, as I was exiting, one of my colleagues was mentioning to me that she had gone to a haunted house in Toluca Ranch. I had never heard of this ranch, but she went on to explain to me what it was. I later found out that the ranch was made into a haunted escape room, which is the haunted escape room we were referencing at the beginning of this episode. Now I want to apologize to our listeners that I haven't been active. I have been sick, so I hadn't been able to actually talk clearly. My throat was pretty bad, pretty scratchy, and hard to actually hold a conversation without coughing and stuff. So, rested, but I'm back, and I'm really hoping you guys enjoy this episode. Now I'm gonna admit, I have never been to an escape room, and I've been to maybe just 2 or 3 haunted houses, and it's always because I'm afraid. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like to be in confined spaces, and the thought of being in a haunted house or in an escape room is just a little too much for me. It gives me a lot of anxiety, to be honest with you. But I mean, maybe I would participate. I'm not too sure, because it does seem like fun. Toluca Ranch is a place with some history, from what I've read. And when my colleague from grad school was recounting her experience at the ranch to me, she did share the history of the ranch, or what she was told that night, at least. Again, I had never heard of this ranch until she mentioned it to me. And once I heard about it, it's always been something that's been in the back of my mind. Would like to visit it. Not sure if I want to participate in the escape room itself, but would like to see it in person. Now, I could not find the exact story that she told me, but lucky for us, I was able to find a recounting of the legend of the Toluca Ranch that is just as good. What I'm going to read to you is an article that was published in 2013 in a local paper. I'm going to provide a link to the article in case anyone wants to actually look at it. There is some art attached to this particular article that I feel like everyone should look at because it's amazing. Very well done. So I'll attach it to the link notes and stuff. So if you are interested, go ahead and check it out. Okay. Now let's dive into Damnation at Toluca Ranch. Florencio Sáenz was an ambitious man who grew up admiring the wealthy landowners along the Rio Grande. Gifted with a sharp mind for figures and languages, he eventually became bookkeeper for Tampacuas Ranch, a sprawling spread carved out of the Llano Grande land grant in 1836, the year of Florencio's birth, by Don Antonio Cano. After a decade of work, Florencio had done pretty well for himself. However, he wanted more, much more. As he surveyed the vast lands of his boss, which stretched from modern Nuevo Progreso to Ed Couch, he dreamt of schemes to make his fortune. One day, tiring of the daily drudge and yearning for a quicker way to attain his dreams, Florencio approached a shaman living on Agua Negra Ranch. "Tell me, how can I become a rich landowner like Don Antonio? The brujo eyed him cautiously, his brow furrowed in thought. I know someone that can help you, he said at last, but I doubt you will approve. Excited, Florencio rasped, I'll do anything, talk to anyone. Very well. Every new moon, at midnight, when darkness is thick, the brujo whispered, the devil appears near a crumbling house on the banks of the river. If you go there, Senor Science, he will give you what you desire. Though Florencio was afraid, his fear waned as the date of the new moon approached. That night he got on his horse and rode to meet the devil. He had seen the ruined house before, so he arrived without problems. As midnight approached, the dark air got colder, and beside the house appeared a handsome, well-dressed gentleman. Florencio knew in an instant that this was Satan himself. So, Don Felipe, said the Prince of Darkness, you want easy wealth? Florencio nodded, a little nervous, but quivering with greed. Yes. Excellent. I'll make you one of the wealthiest landowners along the Rio Grande. You will be powerful, revered by many men, but I have two conditions. Here, the devil leaned in close and whispered in Florencio's ear, at the end of your life, your soul will be mine, and you will never, ever have a child. Florencio gulped as the devil smiled and stepped away. Florencio, do you have a bargain? Though he was more frightened than ever, the bookkeeper agreed. From that day, life changed for Florencio. Don Antonio confided in him more and more, regarding him as a better business partner than his own sons. The youngest Gano daughter, Sostenes, blossomed to womanhood, and Don Antonio permitted the much older Florencio to court her. Upon his deathbed, the old man gave his blessing for their marriage. Sostenes inherited a large tract of land the newlyweds dubbed Toluca Ranch. Florencio established a mercantile store, and soon he was widely respected for his level-headed business sense. By 1882, he had become an Hidalgo County commissioner, rubbing elbows with the powerful. But, try as they might, Sostenes could not seem to get pregnant. She was devastated. Florencio was racked by guilt, bitterly remembering his pact with the Dark One. So when tragedy left their niece, Manuela, an orphan, he agreed without hesitation to adopt her. As the years passed and Manuela grew into a beautiful young woman, Florencio regretted the deal that he had made. Having found a loophole for one of the conditions, he searched for a way to snatch his soul from the devil's grasp. Inspired by the digging of a well that produced bountiful sweet water, the landowner invited the local diocese to build a church on his ranch. The Church of St. Joseph the Worker was a lovely little building, and for many years Florencio sought divine intervention, salvation for his bartered spirit. There was no slacking for his greed or for wealth or power, sadly. He continued to buy up property, establish multiple businesses, and serve the Tejano political machine. When the Mexican Revolution erupted and the sedicios, Texas Mexicans longing for independence, began attacking men they believed were complicit in keeping their people down, Florencio Science was one of their targets. Even as the lively 79-year-old joined the cause of Texas Anglos, naming suspected rebels, Florencio found himself under attack. His workers fled, the fields lay unattended, the cattle began to die. By the end of 1915, Florencio was forced to shut down the ranch operations and move his family to Mercedes, where he spent the final decade of his life in relative anonymity and daily prayer. In 1927, at the age of 91, Florencio felt death sidle close. He knew the end of his long, hard-fought life was upon him. "Take me to the chapel," he told his son-in-law, Amador. The family loaded his now frail form into a motor car and drove him out to his beloved ranch. Long fallen into disrepair, they carried him inside the church, settling him upon a cot near the altar. Looking up at the painted sailcloth ceiling, arching high like a vaulted cathedral, he pondered his life, unsure at the end whether his bargain had been worth his soul. Florencio gripped his wife's hand as the light began to fade. His daughter's lips brushed his forehead. He heard distant sobs for a moment, and then his soul was free. Drifting down the aisle and through the tall, narrow doors, outside waited Not the debonair gentleman, but a mass of darkness in which roiled agonized forms, the sorrowful shapes of men and women Florence's greed had destroyed. Without a sound, a tendril emerged from the impossible black, coiling round his meager spirit. Stripped of all possessions and power, Florencio was dragged into the void. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that's a very good story. And I mean, how true this is, I'm not sure, but it was very similar to what my colleague had told me. I'm not sure there's more truth to that than legend, but could be. Money does have a way of changing a person, and what she had told me was very similar to that. However, it does change. I mean, everything, basically what she had told me was this whole story, except upon Florencio's death, he knew the death was coming for him, so he set up a secure bunker inside the chapel. And he asked his family to lock him in and not to open the chapel doors to anyone. And Florencio vaulted himself in, and his family, of course, was worried for him. They all knew that he was afraid of something, but they never knew what it was that he was afraid of. And he never told them what he feared. So they just, indulged him and like, hey, fine, you want to be locked in there, fine, whatever. One evening, his family heard some screeching sounds and shrieking from inside the vaulted chapel, and they ran to go and open the doors. And they kept yelling, through the doors as they're waiting for the keys to get to them. Are you okay? ¿Qué te pasa? What's wrong? But no reply. Then all of a sudden, the screaming just stopped. Florencio's family managed to finally pry open the doors, and inside the chapel, it was just completely destroyed. And Florencio's body just lay motionless and bloodied on the floor. Blood covered the walls, and scratches were discovered on the floor, with pieces of Florencio's fingernails stuck deep into the floorboards. Florencio's family did not know what to make of the situation, but they knew whatever attacked Florencio had to have been what he was most afraid of. And they knew whatever it was had to have been supernatural of sorts, because there was no way to get into the chapel except through the front doors, and they're the only ones that had the keys to get in. So, ponder upon that for a little bit. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode on the legend of Toluca Ranch. Honestly, this was such a fun one to report on. If any listeners are going to go out during the Halloween season to the ranch or to any haunted houses, just let me know. I would like to see some pictures and, get your feedback on them. Let me know what you think, and, just keep me posted on that. Send me a message if you end up feeling anything paranormal, or encounter anything spooky where you just can't explain. If you have any recommendations of things you would like to hear about next, feel free to let me know as well. Share your stories, and we'll be happy to feature them during an episode. Follow Coffee and Calacas on social media. You can visit our webpage at calacaspod.com, where we have links to all our social media accounts. Like and subscribe for all our latest content. And remember that life begins after coffee.